What's going on there, folks? Good Friday evening. It is your Earthmaster back out here with a little specific update video here on this Friday night, January 20th, 2023. It's about 7:24 p.m. here along the West Coast, where it's been quite active. Not in the weather department. We're actually getting a nice little break from the rain here. More rain expected into February. But this whole West Coast here, Northern California, southward, got a lot of rainfall. A lot. It's been raining sufficiently for quite a couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so, late December into January. And a lot of these regions here have seen a tremendous amount of rainfall. And some of these fault systems here are starting to show some uptick out here in Northern California. Now, aside from the activity up here in the Cascadia subduction zone, that's way down in there, way down into the subduction zone. But what I'm kind of looking at right now is activity ramping up here about the creeping segment northward into the San Andreas Fault, the peninsula section here of San Francisco Bay area. Now up here at the northern end of this specific segment here of the San Andreas Fault is where the 1906 earthquake struck. And down here in this area, they believe back in 1938, I believe. I'm going to go over a couple different articles and show you guys what's going on here. But for now, got a little swarm of activity here. Got about 12 earthquakes. And there's been really no main shaker, ranging anywhere from a very small microquake, like about 0.8, up to a 2.9. There's been a couple 2.9s. And the depth of these earthquakes, roughly consistent. They're around 6 to 7 kilometers deep. And when we see swarms of this fashion, this nature, on a fault system, a major plate boundary, this could be, very well could be, pointing to something much larger possibly happening in the San Francisco Bay area. Now, the last earthquake here, specifically in this region, let's go ahead and bring up, I did bring up some graphs here. Same area, although, let me bring up the, there's the plate boundaries, they're already on there. 1906 earthquake, 7.9, right? That was a big one. A lot of time has passed. And by the way, slip rate here along portions of the San Andreas Fault run, which is a plate boundary, run roughly between 20 to 35 mm per year. That's 0.79 inches to 1.38 inches per year. So you got to think about this. 100 and what is it, 30-something years ago? I'm not going to do the math. I'll let you guys do that. But a lot of time has passed, and that's a lot of slip rate still accumulated here within this region. Now, this is just 6.0 and above. I didn't bring in all the other smaller quakes. I just wanted to show you guys, for the most part, full rupture quakes within this area of the San Andreas Fault. Now, we're not going to look at areas down south or areas way up north, just specifically along the peninsula section, which runs through the San Francisco area. Now, back in 1938, the 7.4 earthquake created quite a bit of movement out here. Not as big as the one up here in 1906, but technically, if you really think about it, that was the last major earthquake out here in San Francisco. A lot of people think, well, what about the 1994 earthquake, the Loma Prieta earthquake, in 1989, excuse me. I remember that one. I was a kid up north. I felt it just outside of Chico up here. Felt a little bit of movement, and my mom's wind chimes that she had in the house were going off, and there was no breeze coming through the window, but they were sitting there dinging and making all sorts of noise. So we knew something was going on. It was pretty cool. My first ever experience there with an earthquake, and so this is kind of where we're seeing that swarming happen. Today, specifically within this area. Now, 1938, or 1838, excuse me, is even much longer than the 1906 earthquake. So, realistically, this segment here could be a lot more dangerous than what we're thinking. 1906 is a ways away in the time frame, and it is along a major plate boundary here. Slip rates up to 35 mm per year. There could be enough strain out here for a big one across the San Francisco area, and not to mention other fault systems that are been on the watch list as well. Geologists, watching portions of the Hayward Fault, Calaveras Fault Zone. So, it's something to watch pretty closely here. Now, back in 1938, where we're kind of seeing that swarming right now, where this earthquake struck, looks like it affected approximately about 62 miles of the fault from the San Francisco Peninsula to the Santa Cruz Mountains. It was a strong earthquake with a estimated moment magnitude of 6.8 to 7.2, making it one of the largest known earthquakes in California. Of course, back then, this area was lightly populated, not a whole lot of people like we have there today. The fault created approximately 1.5 meters, 5.0, that's 5 feet of slip. I think we're already up there. For years, another large earthquake was said to have occurred 2 years earlier, but there's no specific proof of that happening on this fault system. They believe that happened on a different fault. So yeah, the 1989 earthquake, the one down here, the Loma Prieta earthquake, did not happen on the San Andreas Fault. It actually happened here to the west. You can see the epicenter of that specific earthquake just a ways off the fault system on the, I'll let you guys read that. Zayanti? I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not. But you guys see it. It's kind of a different right lateral fault system that sits just to the west here of the main plate boundary. There's a couple different ones out here. But yeah, that one actually did not specifically occur on the San Andreas Fault. So this segment here is definitely open for some potential future quakes, and I think pretty soon. With this type of activity kicking up here tonight, definitely issuing an earthquake watch out here for the West Coast area. And not just because it's in one area, but overall as a whole, we've seen general activity out here along Northern California and the West Coast kick up. We just got another 3.3 coming in. Okay, that's Salta, Argentina. I was looking at my earthquake app here on the phone. But yeah, as a whole, activity has kicked up. And could it be due to the rainfall? Who knows? A lot of these fault systems, when they rupture up all the way to the surface. So these are about 6, it looks like, let's see what these are. About 6.8 kilometers deep. They've been pretty consistent within that zone. But again, a lot of these faults, this plate boundary, these earthquakes, when they happen, rupture all the way to the surface. So I don't know if that's been enough time for all this rainwater to soak in and you lubricate these faults potentially, getting them ready to rock and roll. But, looking at the map here, let's go back here to 2.5 and above. Now, it doesn't look like a lot. Last 7 days, 2.5 and above. That's definitely an uptick here along the West Coast. And most of it has been up here along the plate boundary of the Pacific and the North American plate. So it might be something to watch pretty closely here, folks. We got, let's see what we got for 30 days of activity. I don't know if we're going to bounce in any more or not. Looks like maybe 2. So most of this activity has been within the past 24 hours. So that's why I'm kind of getting a jump on this here real quick, maybe pointing towards this area of seeing something larger popping off here. We've been pretty active not historically, but today, as far as the larger magnitudes quake go. 6.2 over there around the Barbuda area, and also a 6.8 in Argentina earlier today. We have not seen any major westward pressure movement here across the areas of northern Java Trench North, nor any major earthquake here along the western Pacific. So that still kind of leaves California out here underneath the X marks the spot, so to speak. So we'll continue to watch that, see how it plays out. Let me see here. I had a couple different, I don't know where it went to. I have so many windows open right now. But there's a little bit of info on this specific segment here that I think is worth reading. And, there's been many studies on this specific area, this specific fault system here, this plate boundary, this segment. And I think realistically, there's enough strain out there to possibly create another large quake. Now, whether it's going to be a 7.9, similar to 1906, who knows? I mean, it's this is just specifically 6.0 and above, and there's a good segment here. This segment right here, some older large quakes. After that, it's very absent of earthquake activity. So worth noting, and definitely keeping an eye on. Whenever I see any type of swarming in a specific area that has been built up for a little while along a major plate boundary, yes, I would say that's worth watching very closely. San Francisco Bay Area is a lot different than what it was in 1906. A lot more people, a lot more spread out areas, a lot more buildings. You know, a major earthquake of that magnitude today would definitely be fairly devastating. I know they've, you know, upgraded certain bridges and whatnot to be earthquake resistant, but you know, 7.9 out here, I don't know if it'd hold up to that. Who knows? All I know is I would not want to be out there in the city when that happens. Of course, a large earthquake around here will definitely feel around the Chico area. So continuing to watch that, I'll keep an eye on it. We'll do a little bit further update tonight. I just wanted to get this out here because it is kind of a developing deal. The swarm just kind of started earlier today. And again, I have issued out here earthquake watch here for the West Coast due to all this activity kind of ramping up there in a swarm fashion right smack dab on the San Andreas Fault and in an area that has quite a bit of strain built up for a large earthquake. We'll catch you guys back here, probably do an update here around 10 o'clock West Coast time here, so in a couple hours, unless something major happens. It's been a very interesting year so far with earthquake activity, and it looks like there's a little earthquake showing up there on Petrolia and also the Dinsmore station. Now, that's in Northern California. I may have to pull up. Let me look around and see if I can find some closer stations here to monitor the Bay Area, because that's pretty important, I feel. All right, guys, we'll catch you back here in a couple hours with the complete update.